All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 319 of Psykos Platters for the love of Yoko. Yes, that's what I'm going to call this. Before I get into the episode, always powered by coffee each and every time, I wanted to let you know that I appreciate the prayers and well wishes that I have received from the VC and my family in regards to the surgical procedure I had to get done today. Not that it really cared to hear this, but just bear with me. I ended up having to have on my left leg, I've had a problem called, I hope I'm getting this right, a venous aberration. I maybe am pronouncing this wrong. They took out a vein that wasn't opening and closing properly, and they grafted it to an artery, if I remember correctly. So I have got a big ace bandage on. I went and slept for quite a while, and they're telling me to do walking for about a half an hour total today, so I was doing some of that. And I have to keep it on for a day. So I have to cool it for a day. Or two, excuse me. So appreciate all the well wishes and everything, and that's what we're doing. But I didn't want to let today pass without me opening my big mouth. It is Yoko Ono's 88th birthday today. Alright? 88. Man, oh man. Truth, I'm surprised that she made it to this age. I have heard rumors about that she has not been well these last few weeks, especially since the turn of the year. That is the rumor. Now remember, some of this stuff that I'm talking about today is rumors, allegations, supposeds, okay? Some of this is fact, some of it's not. This is an opinion-related piece, just like friends of mine and myself have said, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. So just bear with me. This is not going to be a total hate piece. I don't hate the woman, okay? I don't. Does she annoy me at times? Yes. Hate, that's a very strong word. I do not hate Yoko Ono. So, the thing is that, let me explain a little bit. I'm going to be going back and forth in related stories here. So, when I started collecting the Beatles in the late 1970s, I was 12, 13 years old, okay? But I started reading books. I read Philip Norman's Shout. I read Hunter Davies' The Beatles from '68. I also, The Love You Make, a handful of other stuff, okay? And I started getting at least what was ingrained into my thinking, along with other Beatle collectors, was that Yoko broke up the Beatles. That's what I was told and taught when I was in my early years of Beatle fandom. Of course, you know, hindsight being 20/20, and now you're looking back, you know, on 40 years of collecting, along with 40 years of reading and YouTube and other things like that. That's not the case. Alright? Yoko didn't break up the Beatles. I know a lot of you people are saying, duh. But Yoko was a hindrance. There's many factors that broke up the Beatles, of course. Starting with Brian Epstein's death, Apple, mismanagement, greed, Alan Klein, the money flowing out badly enough, artistic differences were starting to creep in. Stuff like that, okay? The Beatles, when they were doing their recording, it was strictly a boys' club. Only the four of them were down there in the recording studio, alright? Sure, there was people, you know, obviously George Martin, Jeff Emmerich, Ken Scott, a bunch of other people. Once in a while there'd be celebrities or hangers-on would pop in to watch a recording session from up there in the booth. Well, when Yoko came into John's world, that bed was rolled in, and she was there. She was in that room. It was like the white elephant of the room. She also criticized the other bandmates at times, which was very unnecessary. She did not need to do that. All right, but for all intents and purposes, Yoko was John's muse. Okay, at that time frame. John was transitioning. John and Paul used to be like this, right? And even John admitted in several different interviews, I have loved two people, two major people in my life, Paul and Yoko, okay? So it was a transition period. And I've said this before, when you're a band that's been together, all intertwined, thick and thin, Paul, John, George, together since '58, okay, always. Now you're talking 1968, 69. Ringo been there since '62, but knew of the Beatles since at least '60, all right? So when you're in a band that long, obviously people are going to get on each other's nerves. Yoko was an added element to the nerve-wracking. Yoko, of course, before she met John, New York City scene, she was doing the art. I think she was doing minor filmmaking as well. Okay, she was trying to make a name for herself. And from what I'm led to believe, of course, people like Andy Warhol and other musicians like Ornette Coleman, who I'll bring up in a minute again, knew of her. Okay, so she did have some type of underground name for herself. Okay. So, like I said, we get to the Beatles and the Yoko thing. Some people have said Yoko broke up John's marriage. Yes and no, from what I'm led to believe, and I've read different things. Yoko was not Yoko, sorry, I'm working on my first cup of coffee. John was already unhappy with Cynthia, possibly as early as '66. There was some things going anyway. It just happened to be that he met Yoko at that art gallery, and that's when things, you know, in the back of his head, he started thinking. So that by the time John went to India with the rest of the Beatles, he was starting to get more into her. So I just think Yoko was an accelerant in the marriage destruction. Okay? I mean, she had her hand in it, but John was already unhappy before Yoko showed up. I don't know who thought, you know, Yoko had talent of music nature. I got to admit, all right, as a collector, as a I mean, okay, so we hear her on Birthday, all right, along with the other ones at the White Album, and I think she's even on Bungalow Bill, if I remember correctly, too. All right. The woman couldn't sing. We all know this. She shrieks a lot, but here's the thing. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny in a weird way, because the avant-garde type things, the caterwauling that she would do, would end up being used later on as the infamous story of John Lennon being in a dance club in Bermuda and hearing Rock Lobster from the B-52s for the first time, and him calling Yoko going, "Mother, they got it. They got what you were doing." The dance clubs seem to used her work a lot more. When Double Fantasy came out in 1980, I got it the first week it came out. I was very excited that John Lennon was putting out this album for the first time, a new one in 5 years. So this almost 13-year-old played that Double Fantasy all the way through. I never played those Yoko cuts again. Kiss, Kiss, Kiss and all the ones, which they were dance club hits. Whatever, right? Fine, you know. She had her audience in the dance club stuff. And as a Beatle collector, it's not like I was going off vigorously hunting down those Apple release Yoko Ono solo albums, because John was all over those, produced and guitared. I think there was only one that he wasn't on. But the rest of them, like Approximate Infinite Universe, Fly, there's the Yoko and Plastic Ono Band, those ones, okay, I'm looking for those. But you'd be guaranteed a John presence on those albums. And Ringo sometimes too would be on them. There's a track of Point though that I want to bring up to you. You can listen on YouTube unless you've already heard this before. From 1970, off of her first solo album on Apple, there is a track called Greenfield Morning, and if I remember correctly, in parentheses, it's something about a baby carriage. Okay, I'm not with it today, so bear with me. So it's kind of trance-like in parts, you know, and I know there's the trance music genre, but this is like an early piece to me. I know she liked John Cage's work too, as his experimental, but go listen to Greenfield Morning, all right, and you'll hear the trance-like stuff of her voice. Ornette Coleman plays saxophone, okay, so he's on this track. John's on this track. Ringo's on this track. The thing that I remember hearing a minor controversy on this track, you hear this guitar loop that keeps going in and out of the track. The guitar loop is George Harrison, so in essence you have the Threedles backing Yoko on one song. It's not a great song, it's not a total shit song, it's just an interesting curio, but if you've never heard it, go hear it. You'll probably say, oh, that was alright, Paul, or fuck you, Paul, thanks a bunch for wasting. Anyways, so the thing that you have to think about sort of is this. Yoko was a positive influence in John's life, but he also was a negative influence. I guess you could say that about any relationship and any woman in general, right? I do think, though, at times she was a killjoy. And what I mean by that is when John was on the Lost Weekend, okay, so he was with May Pang, which that was arranged by Yoko. Very strange stuff. I still don't think we know everything about the Lost Weekend. I've read May Pang's book. There was somebody else that wrote a book. You have, so you're looking at late 74, early 75, okay, now. John's separated from Yoko. He's on his own with May Pang. He opened up. And yes, he was on an alcoholic bender disaster. If he would have stayed that way, he probably would have died. Now, that's just me and my opinions, okay? He might have been dead by 75, 76 if it wasn't for the reconciliation, which was a slow one after that Thanksgiving night Elton John Madison Square Garden concert, where John showed up for the last time live, and Yoko, you know, and Paul was the one that basically said to John, you know, let me see if I can do my bad Paul. You know, Yoko called up and talked about you, you know, she's still, and she still loves you, Joan. And of course, John still loved Yoko too. So Paul, in a way, in his offside way, was the instigator of bringing them both back. But Paul, before that, opened up an invitation to John Lennon to come down to New Orleans and maybe hang with him for the Venus and Mars recording sessions. Could you have imagined, just even if one tune would have come out of that? I think maybe in its own way, not Beatlemania completely, but just a friendship would have really been a little stronger. But because John and Yoko reconciled, the door was almost shut. George showed up for the premiere party on that ship. That was nice that George showed his approval. But as far as for Yoko is concerned, I just never dug her as a musician. Go look at the on YouTube, the John Lennon, Chuck Berry, Mike Douglas show. Just go watch that. Go watch that and you'll know what I'm talking about. Because they go into Memphis, the song Memphis, and she's on those bongos and she's wailing. Even Chuck turns around and goes, "What the hell? What's this?" And they were smart enough to shut the mic off for the second number. Yeah, just go watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about. So, like I said, I bought Double Fantasy, and I was happy to have a new Lennon album, even if Yoko was on it. Okay. So saying that, I remember the story about the song "Walking on Thin Ice," which would end up on the album of "Season of Glass." So I went out the first day that "Walking on Thin Ice" came out. That was the only Yoko record, and I didn't even hear it, but I went and bought it that day it came out because John produced it. John played guitar on it, and I'm led to believe John was on there for 2 seconds in a background vocal. So you're talking 1981, and I bought that, and I'm like, meh. I bought "Season of Glass." I understand why she was trying to do what she was doing with that album cover and the blood-stained glasses, but I kind of, in a way, thought it was unnecessary. I'm not the only one in that camp. I remember people talking about that album cover. Oh, she got her. If she was trying to get people to talk, she did succeed in that message, okay? But that was the last album I bought, and I bought it as a cutout, by the way. And John's over in that stuff too. That's another reason why I bought it. I never bought any of her other recordings. That was the only one I bought, not even brand new. And it was like a couple months later, it was already in the discount pile. But I did have one personal Yoko story I will tell you about. This would be, and I'm sorry, my memory is shot, 1987 or 88. It was one of those 2 years. Okay, I found out that it was in an art gallery in Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg, Illinois. She was coming to a couple select art galleries. I remember there was one in Water Tower Place in downtown Chicago. She did it there. Another person that chimed in on Facebook alerted to me. I do remember Oak Brook. There was an art gallery in Oak Brook, Illinois, and she went there too. It was the Bag One some originals and some lithographs came. So I got to see some of the original artwork that he did for that. I ended up somewhere in a box. I have a bag with some of those lithographs in postcard form. Yoko made an appearance at all 3 art galleries. So I took my wife at the time, my first wife, I remember that. She could have cared less. I did bring a 45 just in case. I did not expect to get anywhere with this. I remember it was the woman 45 with the picture sleeve because I liked the shot. The shot was a nice picture. And I wanted to see if I could get an autograph. I was respectful, okay? I was respectful. But there was two big security guards, I'm going to say. They looked menacing, and Yoko showed up. She was a little late, if I remember correctly, but she showed up, very short, small woman. I did wave to her and got a little wave back. But I wasn't going to really go, Miss Ono, can I get your honor? I'm just like, I didn't want to push it. Okay, maybe I should have. I'm led to believe that there was a handful of people that later went in. I guess she was nice, and that's fine. I'm glad she was. She's been the keeper of that Lennon estate, obviously, since the passing. I am grateful that, you know, she put out some of that Lennon recordings, like in the Lennon box, and that she gave some audio cassettes to Paul McCartney so that they could get Free as a Bird and Real Love with the rest of the Beatles wraparounding. I think that was kind of nice, okay? I'm told Then and Now, which was supposed to be the third song, was worked on, but George was not happy with it. But from what Paul said, he could go back to it and supposedly polish it up, and it could get released. I really wish they would. Maybe on Anthology 4. We will save that for another episode, though, because I want to talk about that. I know you're going, Anthology 4, what the hell's he talking about? This is just a dream piece, okay? We'll talk about that another time. So I was glad that Yoko at least did sort of try to contribute some things to keep John's memory alive. I think some are good, some are bad on that. This year, earlier, I read a news article that basically Yoko did give to Sean the basic business matters of the Lennon estate. I don't know if it was 100% control or co-control. I don't know how that works. But so now Sean is involved now in the Lennon estate dealings, and I think that's very smart. So I'm going to shut up because I guess I went kind of long on this. But will you do me a favor in the comments, please? Good or bad, share me some Yoko stories. What are your opinions on the music, the woman herself? Did you ever meet her? I know, like people like me, Mr. Mayo, I know he shared a Yoko story. Charles shared a Yoko story on Facebook of meeting with her. And of course, we're not going to go into the almost this close for Paul McCartney getting those songs from ATV instead of Michael Jackson. That's a big mess in itself, too. You could read all that stuff, too. I personally think that, yes, I do think that there was some sneaky underhandedness in that, too. Who's to blame on it? I'll let you be the judge on that. I think, personally, it was Paul and Yoko. That's just me for you, though. But seriously, though, happy birthday, Yoko. You are part of the Beatle folklore in John's world. What do you think? Here's another one for you. If John wasn't with Yoko and John landed with somebody else, what do you think? Would he have lasted longer? Would he have had inspired music? You know, if he landed with somebody else, whoever that might have been. Do you think how much of Yoko being there was part of his creativity? Am I explaining myself well? Probably not. I'm a little out of it still from this procedure, but I wanted to share with you. Yes, I know I've gone long-winded. For that, I apologize. For the rest, I don't. So leave your comments here, what your opinions and such are. Until next time, take care, God bless, rock on, and you know what? Go play some Lennon with Yoko on it. You know, for today, whatever there is. Go play your double fantasy or whatever. Take care, guys. And, oh boy, I know.